Welcome back, guys. I'm Zell, and today we've got a Ganzo to talk about, the 727M. I'll give you my thoughts on it here in a minute, but for now, why don't you come on in here a little closer and we'll get a look at it. Let's take a look around the Ganzo 727M. We have what are supposed to be G10 scales. I don't have any reason to argue with them, so we'll call it G10 scales. Torque screw construction, and a clone of the McHenry and Williams lock, better known as the axis lock. As we roll it around to the back side, we can see its full flow through. Has some pretty nicely cut pillars in there. And on around to the other side, we've got a pocket clip that's very much like what the Rat 1 has, or an Emerson knife, or some of the Benchmades. Very similar. And this pocket clip is tip up, left or right hand carry. As we roll around to the top, we can see that Ganzo did a pretty good job of centering the blade up. They've got a little bit of jimping back here, and the action on this knife is okay. Whenever I had this knife apart, I adjusted the springs because whenever it showed up, unlocking the knife was ridiculously hard. Probably 5 times harder than a Benchmade. So I bent the springs around a little bit, put it back together, and it's easier to unlock now by quite a bit, but it lost its really good flipping action. Now, it's not to say it's bad, but it could be better. It's definitely not like the knife it copies. Let's get our closed numbers out of the way. We've got 4.73 inches in length, or 12 centimeters. We have a thickness of 0.5 or 1.3 centimeters, and a height of 1.42 or 3.6 centimeters. But now that we've got it open, we have a total length of 8 3/16 or 20.8 centimeters, a blade length of 3.4 or 8.6 centimeters, and an edge of 3.2 or 8.13 centimeters. We have a stock thickness of 0.12 or 3 millimeters, and it's a blade made of 440C. Our blade design, very similar to an Ontario Rat 1. Just like this entire knife is very similar to a Rat 1. Drop point with a lot of belly, and it's full flat ground. Makes it a pretty good slicer, and the 440C that's in these really isn't all that bad. It's decent steel. You know, I'm not going to say that it for sure is 440C, because we know how some of those Chinese knife makers can be, and I haven't seen any testing that says that it is. But I do know that it holds an edge better than Aus 8, and when sharpening, it is definitely a little harder to sharpen than the Aus 8 steel. Overall, it's a good design. Whenever we talk about design, though, we have to consider that this design was, for all intents and purposes, copied from the Rat Model 1. Ganzo took the basic shape of the Rat Model 1, put a McHenry and Williams clone lock in it, and by combining those two things, they've come up with a decent knife. However, whenever you put these two knives in your hand, it is immediately evident which one the Ontario Rat is and which one the Ganzo is. You could tell without seeing them. And whenever it comes to action, the Ontario Rat Model 1 wins every time. Even though you do have the liner lock and you have the Axis clone or McHenry and Williams lock on this one. And we'll talk a little more about that here in a minute. As far as ergonomics go, well, you pretty much got a Rat 1 with no jimping on the thumb ramp. It does everything the Rat 1 does. And, you know, it's a copy. It's pretty much exactly like a Rat 1, with the exception of the almost non-existent jimping here on the thumb ramp. So what did you think of the Ganzo 727M? I think for the money you're spending, you're getting a reasonable knife. However, if you live in a place where you can get a hold of the Rat 1 or you can get a hold of the Benchmade knives, you have to realize this knife is pretty much a clone of this Rat 1. And this Rat 1 only costs a few dollars more. And it is a much better knife. You know, these Benchmades, they cost a heck of a lot more, but that's where the lock came from. They have cloned this lock. And as far as I know, McHenry and Williams still own the patent on this lock. And Benchmade licenses it from them as the Axis lock. So there's a lot wrong here, especially if you're in the United States or Europe. However, if you live in one of those places where this Ontario Rat is going to cost you a lot more than the Ganzo knife, the Ganzo is going to serve you plenty well. And I know there are places like that. There are places where this Rat 1 is going to cost the equivalent of 60 or 70 bucks US, and the Ganzo is going to cost the equivalent of $10 or $12 US. So keep that in mind. Whenever the price difference is that great, the Ganzo is an alright buy. Here in the States though, where this thing is costing between 15 and 20 bucks, and this one is costing between $25 and $30, you're better off to save for an extra week or two and get the Rat 1. But overall, guys, the Ganzo 727M is a reasonable knife for the amount of money you spend. And I'm not going to belabor the point anymore. You guys hit me up on those social media links. Like, share, and be sure to subscribe. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.